Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Karen Gender, and my pronouns are she and her. And along with our lead minister, Reverend Krista Taves, welcome to Eliot Chapel. Joining us this morning is Carl Serble. Give a little wave. For Sunday Pastoral Care. See him if something is weighing on your heart. If you have young children staying with you in the service and they start getting restless, you are welcome to take them into Fellowship Hall, where there is a live feed of the service and they can run around all they want. A special welcome to our guests. Thank you for coming. Our welcome person this morning is Chuck Shooter. He's right back there. And he is here for anything you might need. If you are visiting today, thank you. There are guest forms at both entrances to the sanctuary and at the QR code on the screen so that we can stay in touch. Please join us for coffee hour and take a blue cup, so we'll be sure to welcome you. And if you are a member or friend, look for the blue cups and be sure to personally welcome our guests. Our online coffee hour today is at 1:30. Today's service is a bit different, as the title suggests. Ask the minister anything, almost. Reverend Krista will be answering your questions today. You should have received a slip of paper with your order of service, and if you have a question of Krista, write it on that slip of paper and drop it in the offering basket. Children should hold on to their questions and bring them up front during the wisdom story. And now, I invite you as you wish to join in our welcome today by responding, "You are welcome here," at the end of each statement. If you are an immigrant, a refugee, or a person without documentation, you are welcome here. If you are black, brown, white, indigenous, AAPI, whatever your origins, you are welcome here. If you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. If you have a disability, visible or invisible, you are welcome here. If you have been here 100 times or just came today, you are welcome here. If you want for nothing or struggle each day to make it through, you are welcome here. No matter whom you love or what your gender identity, you are welcome here. For this is a community of diversity, of love, and of justice, and it is good to be together. And now, let us enter into the spirit of worship. Our symbol is the flaming chalice, with the bowl representing the beloved community and the flame, the spark of the divine that burns in each of us. These chalice words this morning are by Tracy Johnson. Light of our creative spirits. We light our chalice this morning. Light of our creative spirits. Light of our wild, wise souls. Light of our wondering and curious minds. Light of love for this place, this people, this work. Illuminate our hearts and the spaces between them in this sacred time of unfolding. Blessed be. And now, I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 354, We Laugh, We Cry, verses number 1 and 2, and please remain standing for our congregational covenant.
Good morning. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild, but dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth. And we believe that sharing, glowing is an answer.
In Unitarian Universalism, covenants are the agreements we make for who we want to be as a people. Please join me in reading our congregational covenant. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create a beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be. To listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart. To speak responsibly and respectfully. And to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends. You may be seated. Every week, we give half of our offering to an organization in the community that lives our core values. This month, our shared plate partner is the Crime Victim Center. The Crime Victim Center works to empower people impacted by crime to move from crisis to resilience. They provide counseling, referrals, resources, and advocacy in the St. Louis area for thousands of crime victims and their families. As we prepare to give, we welcome the presence of children in the sanctuary. Together, young and old, we practice generosity, knowing our gifts create ripples of love and care in our community. Let us give joyfully. And please remember to drop your questions into the baskets as they come around. The children should keep theirs. You're welcome to donate through the plate or online using the QR code on the screen and in your order of service. Let us be a generous people. Please join me in the dedication of our offering. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to welcome the children and those who are young at heart to come forward for the first part of Ask the Minister Anything. Almost. Right. And if you have a question with you, bring it down. I have some that were submitted ahead of time. You do? Good. Okay, we'll get to your question. Hi. Hi, everyone. All right. Oops, I just forgot to take off the password protection before service. All right, so I got 3 questions ahead of time, but I want to first talk a little bit about why questions are so important in Unitarian Universalism. Does anyone have an idea of why questions are so important in Unitarian Universalism? You do? Okay. One of the reasons, did you have an answer or do you want to keep it in your head? Okay, I would love to hear it.
When I was up here,
Mm-hmm.
Carl had flutes that we had played with butterfly wings happened.
So Carl was here with his flutes.
And he gave them to everybody.
And he gave them to everyone?
All the kids.
All the kids. Wow, that's pretty amazing. That is if you were here. I didn't know that because I wasn't here. That's awesome. That's really, really fun. Thank you, Carl, for doing that. You're going to be remembered into for a very long time. The reason that questions are so important is because we are always curious in Unitarian Universalism. We don't assume we have the one and only true answer of like why everything is like it is, or what is like ultimate reality, or we don't think we know everything. And we know that it's questions that help us open our minds and open our hearts and open our hands. So we love questions in Unitarian Universalism. We love when you bring your questions to your religious education classes. We just love questions. And sometimes we have answers for them, and sometimes we don't have answers for them, and we're not worried if we don't have answers for them, because that just means we get to be curious longer. And that is always a good thing because it keeps us open to the world around us. So I got 3 questions to start with, and then we'll see if any of you have questions. And you can ask questions about anything, about something you're wondering about, something you worry about, a question you have about Eliot Chapel. You can ask anything. We've got time. So my first question comes from Arrow. Who's Arrow? Are you here?
Yeah, yeah.
There you are. All right, Arrow. You asked me what is my favorite Pokemon. And I have to tell you the truth, I've never played Pokemon. So I spent this whole week learning about Pokemon. And the more I learned, the more confused I got.
A Pokemon dragon to fight another Pokemon dragon. They throw the Pokemon ball with the Pokemon
Oh,
dragon.
now I understand everything. Thank you. So anyways, did you know a lot of ministers are into Pokemon? I had no idea. So I reached out to a really good friend of mine who loves Pokemon, and I asked him, please help me. I have to answer Arrow's question. And he asked me to choose a character that was either earth, air, fire, or water. And I chose water because my horoscope sign is Cancer, which is a water sign. And he gave me some water Pokemon to choose from. Squirtle, which is a mix of squirt and turtle, and transforms into a Wartortle and a Blastoise, and I don't know what those are yet. But I like turtles. I know, I always stop and pick up turtles if they're in the road. I love turtles. Then he suggested Psyduck. Apparently. But Psyduck always has a headache and is holding their head because they have a headache, but it causes their psychic abilities to get stronger. So you have to have a headache to get stronger, and I just couldn't figure out how that would be any fun at all. So no thanks, Psyduck. And then there was Magikarp. A magic fish with jumping power, and I tried, I just couldn't get into that one. But then there was, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Vaporeon? Anyways, looks like a dolphin, and I love dolphin documentaries. Its ears look like bat wings, and I love bats. We have them in our yard. It has a cat face, and I love cats, but I like dogs more, sorry. And its back and tail are like a dragon, and I love How to Train Your Dragon, especially Toothless. I read all the books, and I watched all the movies, and I love the book When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. So when I learned that Vaporeon Pokemon can transform into mist and haze, I knew that was for me. So that is my answer. Vaporeon is my favorite Pokemon. And I want to thank my friend Craig. He saved my life. Kai, who's Kai? You're Kai. You asked, what's your favorite animal? I love horses. I love movies and TV shows about horses. My favorite movie when I was a kid was The Black Stallion. I've watched it over and over again. And then I loved Black Beauty, a book by Anna Sewell. I read it over and over again. It's about a horse that goes through many owners, and some of them aren't really nice, but then it ends up in a really nice place. And it's from the inside the horse's mind. I've read it so many times, I've lost count. And one of my favorite TV shows is about horses. It's called Heartland. It's a Canadian kind of a horse ranch soap opera, but it's for all ages, and it's 15 seasons. So anyway, I watch Heartland when I want to like chill out. And that's my answer to my favorite animal. Next question from Brooke. Is Brooke here? No. Well, you have to give her my answer. What do I like about Eliot Chapel? The coffee. I like the coffee. I've been to a lot of you churches, and I tell you, yeah, there you go. Oh, you have a dragon on your head. That's really cute. I knew Vaporeon was the right choice. Anyways, this is the best coffee I've had in all the churches I've served. It is strong enough, but not bitter. And there's always enough cream for me. Those of you who serve in the kitchen know I take a lot of cream. You usually just start refilling it when you see me walking up. I like the coffee. I really like my staff. I'm going to mention just the core staff, but know that everybody, all the staff, I love them. Brian Franklin is our Director of Business Administration. I could not have a better right-hand person than Brian. He's kind, and he's confident, and he's efficient, and man, he gets things done before I think of them. That's who Brian is. And then there's Debbie Lovell. She's been here for a while, our communications assistant and administrative assistant. She's responsible for the newsletter, along with Sarah Fleming, who helps with the newsletter, the website, the order of service. She's going to program our new cool sign that's going out front that's going to match our church. It's just really nice. The order of service, and she creates all the slides we use in worship. That's her work. All the emails you get, like the blasts you get, that's all Debbie. So she's kind of like, she's the communications hub. We wouldn't know anything about each other if it wasn't for Debbie. Then there's Scott Stewart, who's been here. He's starting his 17th year. He is, and I hope none of the other DREs I've worked with are listening to this, because he is the best DRE I have ever worked with. He is so good, and I'm so thankful that he's here. And the last of our core staff, Reverend D. Evans, who's hiding over here in the corner, who is our assistant minister. We've been friends for quite some time, and I mentored her through her credentialing and ministerial formation process, and then I was so glad that she agreed to come here and be our minister for pastoral care and welcome and membership. And she loves being here so much that it makes me also remember I love being here so much. We just get along so well. But what I love most, and I will get to you, is the people, all of you. This is an amazing congregation, people with good hearts, generous people in many, many ways, people who want to learn and grow and help. We have fabulous kids with great questions, and I look forward every Sunday to seeing everybody. Now, you have a question. When was this church built? 1857, when Kirkwood was just established as a town. It was the first commuter city in the St. Louis region. So that's why the railway track is here and why the downtown is around the railway track. And this church was built by Grace Episcopal because they wanted this to be the first thing people saw as they pulled into Kirkwood. Yes. Will we ever play the organ? Sometimes we do. We have a person in the church, Bob Chamberlain, who plays that organ, and I think he comes on at least once a year as a guest musician, and then we get to hear that organ. Any other questions? You had a question? Yes, you have a question? What's your question? When are the tow trucks fixing cars? Is that your question?
Construction
Construction
vehicles.
vehicles?
Construction.
Do you like construction vehicles and construction sites? Me too. Me too. If there aren't any other questions, we are going to sing you off to your activities, and then you know there's a big special thing at the park today. All the families are going to the park, Simpson Park today, to play for the picnic. But I loved your questions. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later at the park. We're going to sing our kids out. Our prayer today is by Helen Rose. It's called "It is in Questioning That We Find Answers." And it is a pagan retelling of the prayer of Saint Francis, and it is rooted in the sacred feminine. So I invite you to join me as you're willing and able in the spirit of prayer. Let us begin by, as always, grounding as we ground so we can feel the earth underneath us. And centering as we center, so that between the center of ourselves and the grounding beneath us, we are connected to all that is. Let us take 3 deep breaths, as you wish, to come together into this space as one people. Goddess, make me an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, let me know love. Where there is injury, healing. Where there is doubt, reassurance. Where there is challenge, compassion. Where there is pain, let there be rest. O Divine Mother, grant that I may not so much seek to control as to co-create, to be understood as to understand myself, to be admired as to be seen. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in questioning that we find answers, and it is in honoring ourselves that we live to our highest good. Let us enter into a time of silence. Let us speak the names of those we would hold in our love and care. Blessed be. Let us stay seated for our meditative hymn, Where Do We Come From?
Hi. We're going to do this all together once, and then we'll start again with this side of the room first and this side of the room, following them. And at the end, we're all going to come back to the third number, mystery, together, okay? Together, and where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? This half. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where is a riddle and a mystery? Where do we come from? Where is a riddle and a mystery? Where do we come from? Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
We had a backup reading in case there weren't enough questions. But we are UUs. So of course there are enough questions. So we're going to do the questions in two parts. The questions that I received this week that I've had time to think about. And then the questions we're receiving today that I have not had time to think about. So we'll see how it all goes. And so I want to just hold up that there are no right answers, so I may answer a question in the way that you wouldn't answer a question. That's fine. And also that what I'm going to try to do this morning is to model our values in the way that I answer each question. So our core values are justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. And the acronym is JETPIG. If you ever forget. We create an acronym. There's even little t-shirts you can buy with a pig with wings on it. JETPIG. And then with love at the center, always at the center. So, fire away.
Okay. You want to start with the ones you've prepared or intersperse them?
Oh, intersperse them.
Okay, I think
sure,
so too.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
This first question is from Samantha Rossi. If you could change anything about the UUA, what would it be?
Oh boy. Well, if you're new, UUA stands for Unitarian Universalist Association. It is our national body. The center is in Boston. Also there are many countries around the world whose congregations are also part of the Unitarian Universalist Association. And so this, just a little word about how we do like hierarchy in this denomination. The UUA serves us. We don't serve the UUA. So we don't have like the president, who is Reverend Sophia Betancourt, say, this is what we believe and this is how we do it. Right? That is not how it happens. It happens from the leaders reading what's happening in the congregations and reflecting it and then encouraging us to go a bit further. So the UUA is always challenging us, but it's also taking the nature of its work from the work that we are doing, and they are accountable to us. So I want to just put that out there before I answer the question. So what would I change about the Unitarian Universalist Association? First, I want to tell you something that I think they're doing a lot better than they used to do. We used to be very, very bad at holding ministers who misconduct accountable for their actions. Very bad at it. And I think part of it was because we went through a long time, and we still are very committed to freedom, but there was the commitment to freedom wasn't matched with accountability. So it was just freedom. And so, you know, a lot of ministers would say, well, we're free. I'm acting out of my freedom. And we were too hesitant to hold them accountable when they're acts of freedom. Sure, they're free to do that, but there is accountability. So what's happened in the last 15 years, it's changed a lot since I came into the ministry. I'm starting my 22nd year of ministry. So what's happened is that the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association really upped their professional guidelines. And we were all part of that. And there was a lot of controversy around that because we were really changing how we hold ministers accountable at the same time that the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, which credentials ministers, I mean, they tell the churches who's ready to go, right? They've also upped their standards. So, and there's a much clearer grievance process. So a lot more ministers are being held accountable. More ministers are being removed when they wouldn't have been removed earlier. And more ministers are going under review, which means they're not being taken away from the ministry so much as being reviewed, because then they have an opportunity to learn from their mistakes and demonstrate that they've learned and that they will move forward in a healthy way. And if the MFC is convinced they can do that, then they can go back into search and go back into congregations. The UUA is not as good at holding congregations who abuse their ministers accountable, because there is a high rate, actually, in our congregations of abusing ministers. And so a lot of ministers find that when that happens to them, there has been no support from the UUA. And almost that they are like, they're canceled. Ministers are canceled. And so what's happening, and it happened under Reverend Susan Frederick Gray's time as president. She grew up in this congregation. She's finished her term, and it started under her, and it's continuing under Reverend Sophia Betancourt, is creating systems to hold churches accountable. Because what's been happening is that a minister leaves, is destroyed, tries to get themselves back together, maybe go into search or whatever, may get thrown into review and blamed for the problems that are also the church's problems. And so we're losing ministers that way. And a lot of ministers are not willing to go into parish ministry anymore because they don't want to take the risk. That's one of the reasons we have a shortage of ministers, is because ministers don't trust the system to protect them if the congregation abuses them. So now there's a new process that's been developed where when there is a conflicted departure of a minister, or if a minister reports that they're being abused, there is a review of the congregation. And if that congregation cannot show that they've learned from their mistakes, that they're willing to learn from what happened, that they're willing to take responsibility for their part, they may not be allowed into the ministerial search and settlement system. The UA won't let them search for another minister. They won't let them continue the cycle. So that is something that I'm really pleased is happening. It's not there yet. One of the things that makes the UA frightened is because where does their money come from? Congregations. So anyways, that's one of the things that I would change about the UUA. I would get them further in the process of that so that there's equal accountability for ministers who misconduct and congregations that misconduct, because it happens in both directions. What would I change about Eliot? Eliot had years of financial anxiety, years of having deficit budgets or cutting it super close, always anxiety about money. And I think that there is a scarcity mentality in this culture that makes people just afraid that we're always going to fall apart, that we're always on the edge of falling apart. Well, we have had 3 successful years where we actually posted a surplus. Not a huge surplus, but a surplus, because people have been so generous that we brought in more money than we put in our budget, which has allowed us to do all kinds of things, all kinds of delayed maintenance. It allowed us to bring an assistant minister here, which has now been rolled into the budget, so now we're paying for that entirely. But the first year, the surplus allowed us to bring in a second minister, badly needed. So although it's 3 years as opposed to, I don't know how long this has been, but we know that we don't have to live there. And if we can move ourselves out of a scarcity mentality and take the energy away from that, think about how much energy we would have for all the really important, way cool, and really crucial things we need to do now. So keep being generous with all that you have. And it's part of also what has allowed this congregation to resurrect from the pandemic. Your generosity did this. So thank you.
This question is from Lynette and Steve Tanaka, and they ask, if we visited your home, what song would you play for us on your guitar?
Oh my gosh. Oh my good. All right, I don't play guitar as much now, but what would I play? I would play something that I could probably be very good at and not make a whole lot of mistakes. There's a song by Heather, I forget her last name. She's a Canadian folk singer, and she wrote a song called Seed in the Ground. It's like, if you got the sun and if you got the rain, you plant a little seed in the old back lane. You wish and you pray, you keep the weeds down, and you might find a shoot coming up from the seed in the ground. Then you go around and around, and you go from the shoot to the stem, to a branch, to a leaf, to a flower, to a seed. That's one of my favorite songs. Heather Bishop, that's her name. She's from Winnipeg. No, Steinbach, Manitoba, maybe. Canadian, you know. A. Canadian A.
This question is from Sarah Bruder. What do you do in your own life to help you practice positivity and being hopeful about the future?
Let me go back to all right. I have a deep practice of gratitude. It's one of the ways that I live the value of generosity, is that I try to thank everyone for everything that they do, even when it starts getting repetitive. And even with family members who you think, you don't have to thank them for that because they do that all the time anyways. I make a commitment to say thank you a lot, to practice gratitude for others. And also the harder one is practicing gratitude for myself. I am, surprise, surprise, a perfectionist, and I have very high standards for myself, and I never reach them. So I have to have gratitude for myself, for these are all the things that you're a good person, you do well. And so I do that because there's so much ugliness in the world, and it's very easy for me to prioritize the ugly things I'm seeing and to lose sight of the real potential we have for goodness. And so practicing gratitude keeps me in a place of always searching for the goodness and finding it. I also, I look for good news. I don't ignore the hard stuff, but I also try not to go down the sinkhole of the hard stuff. I like to read stories of people using really creative tactics to resist what's happening. And my favorite story right now is the one about Liberty Vans. Have you heard of the Liberty Vans?
Yes.
The Liberty Vans are, it's called the Save America Movement, and they need $1 million for each Liberty Van, and they have that Liberty Van. In that Liberty Van is a chaplain, a lawyer, let me see, I wrote down all the different things that are there. A chaplain, a lawyer, cameras, and veterans. And they follow ICE agents as they do their work. And so they have the cameras to capture what the ICE agents are doing. They have the lawyers on hand for those who are being arrested. They have chaplains on hand to do spiritual care for those who are being taken, as well as those who are seeing their people being taken. And then veterans, because they understand the military, they understand the maneuvers, they understand the mindset that one can get into when you are in a position of power like that. So that's one of the stories that I'm following. I like that story a lot.
So David B. Cox asks, are you a theist?
Sometimes. Sometimes I'm a theist. Other times I'm not a theist. What's interesting is that the time when I feel a presence of God most often is in the silence in the prayer. And when I go back to my home congregation that I grew up in and sit with my family, for me, if there is a God, it is relational. It's not a transcendent, up there kind of God. It's relational, like God in, of, and through us. More of a process theology, understanding of God as happening and being created. And sometimes I don't use the word God for that. I just use like us or a creative consciousness. But sometimes I do feel called towards a sense of that kind of presence and appreciate when I can feel it and be part of it.
Mary Myhouse asks, what are your thoughts about the importance of volunteerism in our church community?
Mary is our volunteer coordinator, so yes, she planted this question.
Get a plug.
Mm-hmm.
What you want me to read the rest of it? What is
I think I can.
Okay.
I think I can do the
Okay.
rest of it.
All right.
And she asks about what's the stance on volunteering as part of members and friends pledge to our home church. So when you come to this congregation as a guest and you go through the New Start program, Starting Point program, which is a fabulous program if you're just learning about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, we do talk about service as a core element of our faith tradition. It is part of our commitment to generosity. It is a part of our commitment to centering love in all that we do, and that is service. And one of the ways that service happens is through volunteering. This congregation, nothing here would exist without the generosity of decades of members and friends who volunteer their time. Nothing would be here. And so volunteering is the glue. It's the glue that holds this place together. But we don't just volunteer for ourselves, we also volunteer for the larger community in terms of service projects or the time and energy we give to organizations that we partner with. So volunteering is very important. I also think it's important to note that our society has changed a lot. Churches used to be run by volunteers who were women who were at home and their partners, usually husbands, were working. And so that was one of the things that you could count on the women of the church to be the backbone of that volunteer force. But we don't have that anymore. Most families have two incomes, or everyone who's in the partnership, everyone's working, bringing money into the home and raising kids and all that stuff. So time has changed in terms of what people's time, how much time is available. So one of the things that I like to think about is that there are two kinds of volunteers. There's the coordinating volunteers, the ones who kind of see the large system and put in place ways for things to happen. And then there's the worker bee volunteers, those of you who are ready to do a short, one-time commitment and feel really good, but you've participated in something bigger, but you're not the kind of person who plans that stuff. So most of our teams are like the coordinator types. They're the ones that think in those big pictures. But what they're doing is creating opportunities for the short-term volunteer commitments. And we need both. And I would encourage everyone to think about what can you offer and how can you serve this congregation and the values that you are living your life by. And it's not just about giving, it's also about receiving, because volunteering is one of the best ways to meet people, to build relationships, to build trust, to feel like you belong, and that the congregation belongs to you because you have helped to create this place and sustain this place. It is a spiritual practice for us, so I leave you with that. I hope, Mary, that helps to answer your question. Got the thumbs up. Yeah, I got that question. And thank you to Mary. I mean,
Yes.
Mary My House is one of those hubs. And there is, on our website, a Volunteer Village tab, so you can see what the needs are and if they might meet your passion or your desire or what you would like to offer the church.
Steve Harvey asks and suggests that it might be a bit humorous.
Of course.
Why? Why does something exist instead of nothing? And how do you explain that?
I need a physicist. Can someone please, is there a physicist in the room? Because I'm not a scientist.
We'll start more concrete.
Okay, how does something exist instead of nothing? Steve, I don't know what to do with that. I'm going to sit in the question.
Yes, indeed.
That's my answer. I'm going to sit in the question. I'll think about it. And I'm thinking we need to have our special music. No, you're ready?
If we have time, I'd love to.
We only have like 6 minutes, but are you okay going a little bit longer with the questions? And the ones I don't get to, I'll put the answers in the newsletter. All right? I'll make a commitment. All right. And then we'll do another 10 minutes.
Okay.
And you need your, yes.
When on the highest rock I stand, gazing down into the deep valley and sing, from afar in the deep dark valley floats the echo of the ravines. The further my voice reaches, the clearer its echo from below. So far away my loved one lives, wherefore I yearn so ardently to be where she is.
Thank you.
focus on the questions that were sent in, so I cover those, and then I'll deal with the other ones. Like I said, I will answer them to the best of my ability and post them into This Week at Eliot.
Suzanne Lay Lauren asks, what questions and support help people face their decline towards the end of life, especially when their faith has been focused on the here and now?
It's a great question. So in our faith, we approach death differently than many faiths, especially the ones that many of us are familiar with, such as a more conservative Christianity, where there's a focus on the afterlife. We don't have a focus on the afterlife. That doesn't mean that we can't believe in an afterlife. It's just not, we don't have any worries about getting there. Because what we're focused on is here and now. And that really there's a belief that what you believe in is to be honored. And I will always affirm what someone believes about where they're going or if they're going anywhere at all. So the first question that I always have is, number one, like, where are they at right now when I'm sitting with them? Like, what's going on for them right now? Because we're still in the here and now. And the here and now, let's make it as rich as possible while you are here now. And I often ask, is there anything left undone or unsaid for you that you need to release before you go? And so often there is. And if they can't do anything about it because of their condition, at least they can talk about it. If there's someone they wish they had been able to say something to, even if they've already passed, say it now if you wish. I will listen to you. So say whatever you need to say, or talk about what you have left undone, so that we can at least bring it here and maybe help you to find some peace with that, so that when you are released, your heart is not carrying that weight. And then really, I always ask them, what do you think is happening? Because I'm not making any assumptions about what people believe about where they're going. What do you think is going to happen? What gives you comfort? Is there anything you're uneasy about what you believe is going to happen or what you hope will happen? And then we talk through that. And if there isn't anything jarring, just affirm it. Affirm it and rejoice in this. That's generally my approach to dealing with those kind of visits as a Unitarian Universalist minister.
Dennis Johnson asks, why has the Black Lives Matter sign in front of Eliot Chapel become so large? And although Black Lives Matter is clearly an important issue worthy of support by Eliot Chapel and its members, should it alone dominate the entire front yard of Eliot Chapel?
All right. It's fine. There we go. I'm going to back away from it a little bit. One of the reasons we still have the Black Lives Matter sign out front is because all the issues that were just hurting our hearts when we first put it up in 2015, they're still here. In fact, we are in a backlash. And that backlash didn't take long. I mean, it didn't start like in 2017. It started, or in 2024, at 5. It started like immediately. And while I think there has been some progress and a greater understanding, but there's also been a strengthened rejection. And now we're seeing an active unraveling of all the things that we even thought we had, which still wasn't enough, but at least there was something. So the sign stays up, even though it is ridiculed, it is disputed, it causes controversy, because we're not supposed to run from those things. So the sign has been up that long. But it is not the only thing that we stand for. And I agree that it needs a diversity of messages. And in the last year, Bob Becker, who's sitting here, he makes those signs. And I said, well, can we make a greater diversity of signs? And we do. We now have signs that we rotate. One is for reproductive justice. One is for LGBTQ equality, of a big, beautiful rainbow sign that love is love. And another one is for immigration reform. It says, build bridges, not walls, along with Black Lives Matter. And we swap those out. And we're even talking about increasing it even more, so that the community gets an understanding and we are witnessing to a greater diversity of issues that we care deeply about. I'm also pretty excited about our electric sign, because that will also allow us to, in a more dynamic way, share our values, share what's happening inside this building, what we care about, what we love, and what concerns us.
Can I switch them around?
Yeah, you can switch them around.
All
Yes.
right. Carol Glauser asks, many metaphysical teachings suggest that reality, in some sense, mirrors our collective inner state. If that's true, what do you think today's global struggles, including the widespread crisis of a lack of mental health and trauma recovery healing, along with political corruption and deep divisiveness and propensity to choose war over finding peaceful resolutions, might be trying to teach us?
That's only her first question.
Do you think that humanity is in the midst of a spiritual awakening?
All right. Well, this is a big question, Carol. I would have no doubt that it would be. So I will be honest and say that I struggle with metaphysical teachings. I'm just going to put it out there, that I struggle with them. I am more of an economic determinist, if that makes sense, that I think that our reality is largely shaped by our position in society, and that it even often defines what we think is a question, or what we think is true, or what we think is normal. And so for me, the idea that what's in our mind shapes reality, I really struggle with that idea. However, I also think that how we position ourselves in the world, in our minds, is very, very important. You know, if we are anticipating struggle, or if we're anticipating distrust or betrayal, or seeing danger around every corner, that's going to shape our reality, which is what we're seeing now. And this is going to dovetail with another question about my being Mennonite as well. I think that as Unitarian Universalists, one of our challenges is, even though it is very, very, very difficult, we are called to try and step outside of our social location and question what we believe to be true. Why do we think this is true? And what privileges are we carrying that has made this true for us, but it's not really true because it's not true for everybody? And so in that process, we reformulate what is in our minds, and we actually bring ourselves more in harmony with reality, with the truth of people's lives and what is happening. So I think it's both, you know, from the metaphysical side, it's from the mind this way, and for me often it's from the economic, social, cultural thing we live in this way, but I also can see that it is a dialogue, it is a relationship, and I think in that way, metaphysical teachings and economic determinism can find some common ground. And as a Unitarian Universalist minister, I also affirm that those of you who do live your lives and center your lives on metaphysical teachings, you're some of the coolest people I know. Even though I don't necessarily find it meaningful for myself. I do think that a lot of what is in our minds, it's our denial of reality, I think, that is causing the harm we see.
And let's go to both Lou Salvin and Tim Gardner ask questions about your Mennonite tradition. So what parts of the Mennonite faith did you integrate into your personal beliefs as a Unitarian Universalist? And how do each of our faith traditions speak to you both personally and professionally? And do you believe one or more relevant than the other at this particular time in the history of Eliot Chapel and to the larger UUA movement?
So first I want to say that I grew up progressive Mennonite. Just like there are many, many strands of the Mennonite faith, just as there are in faiths like Judaism, where you have your secular Judaism all the way to your Orthodox. Mennonites are the same. You know, we have our old order Mennonites, horses, buggies, and black bonnets and all that stuff, right? And then there's the Mennonites who are on this side. And I grew up on this side. Although even in my community, there were more conservative and more liberal people, and my parents broke away from the more conservative church and went to the liberal black sheep Mennonite church on the edge of town. And in our church, women could serve communion, women could speak at the pulpit, women could be on church council, and women could pray before the congregation. So that was very radical. And in this church, you could speak English, because the church that I grew up in, you could only speak German because, God speaks German. So, and I still do speak German, but God doesn't speak German. So what do I carry with me? I would say that for me, a lot of my Mennonite faith has been experienced through my family, because I left the Mennonite church at a young age when I realized that I was queer and there wasn't going to be a place for me, and I found feminism. And at that time, even though they were more liberal, the feminism I was taken on was not anywhere, was way beyond the feminism that they were in. So I left at a very young age. So my experience of the faith is primarily through my family and my grandmothers. And I respect them because they were so devout. They were devout. They lived and breathed their faith in everything in their lives. They started the morning with devotions. They prayed before every meal. They ended the day with devotions, and they took them to heart. They really took them to heart. And both of them, from that faith position, loved us deeply. The Mennonite tradition also, it's a peace church, and I've carried that with me. Humility is very important. Pride is that's really, although we can be proud about how humble we are. So it does give you a lot of status if you're humble in the right ways. Just saying. I also really respect the progressive Mennonites. There's a group called Mennonites in Action, and they occupied Congress at the beginning of the war between Gaza and Israel, between Palestine and Israel, saying we have to have a Palestinian land. They have to have autonomy. We have to have a two-state solution. And they've been going back, and they just keep getting arrested, but they're not being silent. So I really respect them for that. I do feel closer to my UU faith than my Mennonite faith, I will say. And so I carry all that with me, but where my growth edge is in being a Unitarian Universalist and carrying forward those values and living them as my grandmothers did their faith, carrying them with me and being devoted to them every day of my life and every minute that I'm breathing. That's my goal, right?
And that's a beautiful segue into, let's say, our last question, which is, from Rich Hurman, what is your elevator talk? The things you say when someone asks you about UUs.
I do have an elevator talk, and I learned it from Reverend Cheryl Walker, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister of color. And when she said it, I'm like, I am memorizing that. I said, please write that down for me, because it is so good. And so she said, this is her elevator talk, which I have now adapted for myself. From Unitarianism, our heritage teaches us that God is one. Our Universalist heritage teaches us that everyone is saved. And as our faith has transitioned to a pluralist post-Christian faith tradition, we hold up our unity and our radical interdependence on each other, and that we are held by a love beyond our measure. And that's what Unitarian Universalism is.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
And our closing hymn is We Laugh, We Cry, verses 3 and 4.
Yes.
Yes.
Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills our heart with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even together, truly is an answer.
Let us extinguish our chalice and share our benediction. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Wait. There we go. Dun, dun, together. We will seek a place for you wherever you may go. We'll sustain this home of faith and love we've come to know. Go in peace, we come through doors that yearn. We will play a place for you till we return.
And now, may the Spirit of life hold you, may love bless you, and may joy find a place in your days. Go in peace.